All praises, all praises, all praises, giving honor and glory to the heavenly, holy creator, power of the universe, eternity, infinity, the stars, earth, the oceans, the mountains, humanity, and all there is. Once again, this is Revelations.Unveiled. Detroit, coming before you in presentation, in honor, privilege, and humility. And as always, this message goes out to the scattered tribes of the house of Jacob, the nation of Israel, as well as to my brothers and sisters who go by the worldly bywords of Black and Negro, color and people of color, Moors and sovereigns, Aboriginals and indigenous, natives, African and Afro-Americans, niggas, descendants of slaves, and those who are conquered and colonized. Hello, family. I am here today to bring to you a presentation that was inspired by my brother in YouTube world, who goes by the channel of Your World, Your View, also known as SuperBoy 222. So this was inspired by one of his commentaries. So I am going to present an insight. So at this channel, we go by 3 beginning standards for our understanding. And those 3 standards are, of course, you're going to need a King James Version Bible, 1611, or a King James Version Bible with the accompanying apocryphal red book. And our standard at our channel here is starting in the book of Malachi Malachi chapter 3, verse 6. For I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore, you sons of Jacob are not consumed. Verse 6. For I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore, you sons of Jacob are not consumed. And we always back up that universal pillar standard with our second pillar of understanding with the living word, who is the Messiah. And this is over in the book of Hebrews, chapter 13, verse 8, in reference to the Holy Messiah, whom the world calls Jesus Christ, the same yesterday and today and forever. Verse 8, the Holy Messiah, whom the world calls Jesus Christ, the same yesterday and today and forever. All right, so all my brothers and sisters out there still thinking in the carnal, worldly way, who goes by any of those previous bywords outlined, if you come up against a Hebrew Israelite who is growing in the spirit and the word, they're going to put those 2 verses on you, and then they're going to let you go and start acting simple and tap dancing and stuttering when you unveil your worldly philosophy or thought or religion, etc. And then we give you our standard rule for how we read the Bible. And that is over now in the book of our brother prophet Isaiah, chapter 28. And we start at verses 9 through 11. Isaiah chapter 28, verse 9. Whom shall he teach knowledge? And whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breasts. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little. Verse 11. For with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people. All right, family. So tonight's presentation is titled Coons, an insight into bed bucks and bed wenches, a common term in our people's terminology, characterization, labeling of a certain type of people exhibiting a certain type of behavior to the detriment of our nation of a people. So, Coons, an insight into bed bucks and bed wenches. So, originally, or the genesis per se of my channel development stemmed from my reading of the Willie Lynch letter. And it affected me profoundly at that time that I read it, I guess within this spiritual insight that I'm growing into. So, yes, I read the letter before, it made sense, but I hadn't connected it in terms of the holy history. So now, when I read the letter, it sprung forth all types of different new content and searches and perspectives and paradigms. So I went back to the letter as it pertains to tonight's theme. And what I'm going to do is read the power points, the power references of the letter. So remember always the Willie Lynch letter. And I've said this in past commentary. I hold it to be hypothetical, unreal. Anyone could have made it up. But the formula, the satanic, demonic formula that was applied to those people in the mind and in the body still exists to this day, right now, wherever you sit, stand, lay down, as you receive this message. So we're going to begin with the core points as it pertains to our subject matter tonight in the Willie Lynch letter. So it's outlined in the introduction of the letter. Let's Make a Slave, the Willie Lynch letter, Let's Make a Slave. Willie Lynch arrived. He was in the before the audience of slave holders, slave masters, overseers, etc. And he began with, in my bag here, I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. My method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseer can use it. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves and make the differences bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control. These methods have worked on my modest plantation in the West Indies, and it will work throughout the South. Take this simple little list of differences and think about them. On top of my list is age, but it's there only because it starts with an A. The second is color or shade. There is intelligence, size, sex, size of plantations, and status on plantations. Attitude of owners, whether the slaves live in the valley, on a hill, east, west, north, south, if they have fine hair or coarse hair, or are they tall or short? Now that you have a list of differences, I shall give you an outline of action. But before that, I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than trust, and envy stronger than adulation, respect or admiration. Distrust is stronger than trust, and envy stronger than adulation, respect, or admiration. Black slaves, after receiving this indoctrination, shall carry on and will become self-refueling and self-generating for hundreds of years, maybe thousands. All right. And so we move into the header of let's make a slave. And they start off with the ingredients for this demonic, satanic formula with what do we need? First of all, we need a black Negro man, a pregnant Negro woman, and her baby Negro boy. Whereas nature provides them with the natural capacity to take care of their offspring, we break that natural string of independence from them and thereby create a dependency status so that we may be able to control them, to get from them useful production for our business and pleasure. All right, so that was short and sweet. And then we move into the implementation. The cardinal principles for making a Negro. We understand that short-range planning economics results in periodic economic chaos. So to avoid turmoil in the economy, it requires us to have breadth and depth in long-range comprehensive planning, articulating both skill-sharp perceptions. We lay down the following principles for long-range comprehensive economic planning. Both horse and Negroes are no good to the economy in the wild or natural state. Both must be broken and tied together for orderly production. You must keep your eye and thoughts on the female and the offspring of the horse and the Negro. A brief discourse in offspring development will shed light on the key to sound economic principles. Pay little attention to the generation of original breaking, but concentrate on future generations. Therefore, if you break the female mother Negro, she will break the offspring in its early years of development, and when the offspring is old enough to work, she will deliver it up to you. For her normal female productive protective tendencies will be or will have been lost in the original breaking process. Completely break the female horse until she becomes very gentle, whereas you and anybody can ride her in her comfort. Breed the mare and the stud until you have the desired offspring. Then you can turn the stud to freedom until you need him again. Train the female horse, whereby she will eat out of your hand, and she will in turn train her offspring to eat out of your hand also. When it comes to breaking the uncivilized Negro blacks, use the same process, but vary the degree and step up the pressure so as to do a complete reversal of the mind. Take the meanest and most restless Negro black, strip him of his clothes in front of the remaining black male Negroes, the female and the Negro infants. Tar and feather him. Tie each leg to a different horse faced in opposite directions. Set him on fire and beat both horses to pull him apart in front of the remaining Negroes. The next step is to take a bullwhip and beat the remaining black Negro male to the point of death in front of the female and infant. Don't kill him, but put the fear of God in him, for he can be useful for future breeding. The breaking process of the African woman. Take the female and run a series of tests on her to see if she will submit to your desires willingly. Test her in every way, because she is the most important factor for good economics. If she shows any sign of resistance in submitting completely to your will, do not hesitate to use the bullwhip on her to extract that last bit of resistance out of her. Take care not to kill her, for in doing so, you spoil good economics. When in complete submission, she will train her offsprings in early years to submit to labor when they become of age. We have reversed the relationship in her natural, uncivilized state. She would have a strong dependency on the civilized Negro male. I'm going to start that over. We have reversed the relationship. In her natural, uncivilized state, she would have a strong dependency on the uncivilized black Negro male, and she would have a limited protective tendency toward her independent male offspring, and would raise male offsprings to be dependent like her. Nature had provided for this type of balance. We reversed nature by burning and pulling a civilized black Negro apart and bullwhipping the other to the point of death, all in her presence, by her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed. The ordeal caused her to move from her psychological dependent state to a frozen independent state. In this frozen psychological state of independence, she will raise her male and female offspring in reversed roles. For fear of the young male life, she will psychologically train him to be mentally weak and dependent, but physically strong. Because she has become psychologically independent, she will train her female offspring to be psychologically independent. What have you got? You've got the black Negro woman out front and the black Negro man behind her and scared. This is a perfect situation of sound sleep and economics. Before the breaking process, we had to be alertly on guard at all times. The Negro marriage. We breed 2 black Negro males with 2 black Negro females. Then we take the Negro black males away from them and keep them working and moving. Say one black Negro female bears a black Negro female, and the other bears a Negro black male. Both Negro females being without influence of the black Negro male image, frozen with an independent psychology, will raise their offspring into reverse positions. The one with the female offspring will teach her to be like herself, independent and negotiable. We negotiate with her, through her, by her. We negotiate her at will. The one with the black Negro male offspring, she being frozen with a subconscious fear for his life, will raise him to be mentally dependent and weak, but physically strong. In other words, body over mind. Now, in a few years, when these 2 offsprings become fertile for early reproduction, we will mate and breed them to continue the cycle. That is good, sound, and long-range comprehensive planning. Warning: possible interloping negatives. Earlier, we talked about the non-economic good of the horse and the black Negro in their wild or natural state. We talked out of the principle of breaking and tying them together for orderly production. Furthermore, we talked about paying particular attention to the female black savage and her offspring for orderly future planning. Then more recently, we stated by reversing the positions of the male and female black Negro savages, we created an orbiting cycle that turns on its own axis forever unless a phenomena occurred and reshifts and repositions that of the male and female black Negro savages. As a major footnote, in addition to that formula, crossbreeding black Negroes means taking so many drops of good white blood and putting them into as many black Negro women as possible, varying the drops by the various tone that you want, and then letting them breed with each other until the cycle of color appears as you desire. What this means is put the black Negroes in a breeding pot, mix some good white blood, and what do you get? You got a multiplicity of colors of ass backward, unusual black Negroes. And for any of the Hebrews out there, that was Esau's seed or sperm genetic infusion. All right, family. That is the conclusion of part 1 of Coons, an insight into bed bucks and bed wenches. Stay tuned for part 2. And before I leave, I pose this to all my brothers and sisters operating mentally out in the carnal, worldly world, having the world view, not having any defined spiritual application, no identity, referring to yourselves as a byword. I leave you with Brother Prophet Isaiah, and he's going to make a statement to you, and I want you to ponder his statement. I want you to chew on it a bit, put it in the pipe and smoke it a little bit, puff on it. I want you to put it in your bowl of your favorite mush and stir it up a bit. I want you to drop it in your stew that you simmer and let it marinate. Put it in the microwave and let it pop. Open up your mind, which will crack the door to your spirit, and listen to what Brother Prophet Isaiah will say. Isaiah chapter 1, verse 3 and 4. The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel do not know. My people do not consider. Verse 4. A sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters. They have forsaken the Lord. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel unto anger. They are gone away backward. Thank you for listening and sharing this presentation if it meets you. This is Revelations.Unveiled.Detroit. I love you. I love you. I submit a humble petition for us all for the blessing, for another opportunity, for the gift of breath and life, so we may continue to define and refine our walk on the path of righteousness, which is the example of the Holy Messiah, whom the world calls Jesus Christ, who is the Word of God made flesh. I love you all until we are together again. Peace, blessings of safety and security, perseverance and endurance.